Hello there and welcome. I'm a few minutes late today, so thanks for waiting on me. And today we're talking about leadership leverage. I'm going to jump right in. Most founders think of exit as something that happens when you sign a deal, but real exit starts long before the paperwork. Now, even the exit planners will tell you need like a 3 year runway. So if you didn't know, that's your little tidbit for today. But for me, it starts when you begin pulling yourselves out of the wrong roles. Not all at once, but deliberately. So the business becomes stronger without you. And really, that's the gist of everything I do. So today we're going to talk about the 3 roles that every founder needs to exit first and how to do it without compromising performance or even your culture. And those are the 2 biggest things that you really have to pay attention to as you make this transition, not just in like structural responsibility, but also the personal transition for you and what it's like for you to not be Superman or Superwoman for everybody in your company, including your clients. You don't exit business in one step. Doesn't happen that way. You exit in stages by shifting out of roles that no longer serve the highest value of the business. This is about what's best for the business now, not necessarily just what's best for you personally, although hopefully they'll intersect, right? These 3 roles are the most common traps that I see for high performing founders. And the earlier you step out of them, the smoother the road to succession or sale. And I want to tell you a little story about that. Many of my clients come to me overwhelmed and burned out and tired of carrying the business on their shoulders, right? The success or failure depends entirely on them as the owner. And they'll come to me and say, Jen, I need your help getting everything straightened out. We need processes, we need systems, we need to make sure we have the right people. And then I'm going to sell it, I'm going to exit. And I say, okay, we'll get to work. That's what we're going to do. When we get to the end, more than once, actually more than exit, what I hear from them is, this is all right. I don't think I'm ready to exit. I'm going to spin up another division, or I'm going to start another business, or things like that, because we've shown them how great business ownership can be. Not in terms of revenue or how expansive the business is, but how they can have some personal life balance, some freedom at the same time they have a successful business. So exiting these roles within your business is just about as much about freedom now as it is about exit later. So let's get into it. 3 founder roles that have to go first. The first one, and I know you're going to identify with this, the day-to-day decision filter. And I think I mentioned last week I'm working on this decision filter and I still haven't gotten the flow chart done. But if every choice, if every decision flows through you, the team is never going to develop real autonomy. But to do that, they need that rubric. They need to know what they can lean on to make decisions, which is the whole purpose for the decision filter. So I promise I'll get that done and share it with you soon. But I want you to ask yourself, what decisions am I making that someone else could make? And this is not, in my experience, it's not sit down and journal pages and pages, although that might work for you. What I think works better is to have a notepad on your desk and just start with the process of awareness and just noticing who comes to your door, who pings you in Slack, who wants to set up a call with you to have you help them walk through decision making. So that's one place. What decisions am I making, or where am I making decisions that someone else could be handling that? Okay. Number 2, the firefighter in chief. Again, I know this is going to be familiar to you. If you're always the one solving the urgent problems, that's a sign of weak systems. Or conversely, it might be a sign that you have the systems, but you're struggling to let go as the founder. And that's why we don't just work with the operational structure of your business, we work with the personal transitions too. You built that business. It sometimes is hard to see the boundaries between the individual and the business. And we help you with that. It's a journey, it's a transition, it's not an overnight thing. So I want you to ask yourself what emergencies would go away if I empowered my team members or even the right process to handle it. That kind of goes back to the decision rubric that we're talking about, the decision filter. But it also goes back to you being able to share with your team where you see things go south and proactively prevent those things from happening rather than always dealing with it after it happens. And my clients will tell you that I constantly am talking about building the guardrail at the top of the cliff instead of putting the ambulance at the bottom. So that's one of the transitions that we try to make. How can we build that guardrail so we don't have the emergencies in the first place? And that is something that you can work on. All right, the third exit, the culture enforcer. Culture should live in your team whether you're there or not. It shouldn't rely on your presence. And if you're a parent, you know how this goes, right? We teach them, we impart our values, and then we hope they make good decisions in line with those values when they're away from us. This is not a family. Your team is not a family. They're people that have come together over a shared connection with your vision and with your culture. And so if you are baking culture, baking core values into the business, they should be supporting it and I don't like the word enforce, but encouraging it with each other. We always had a section in our project management system that we called high fives. And the idea was that we were catching each other living out our values, right? So the values weren't just words on a poster that were in the hall or a background on our computer desktop. They were things that we lived, and we were always trying to spot them in the wild and congratulate and notice them. Those are some of the ways that you can make sure that your team is carrying that legacy, that culture forward, instead of depending on you and your presence to make it happen. Ask yourself, where is our culture dependent on my personal personality and not the principles of the business? Now, again, as I move into the closing, I want you to just set a notebook or put a note in your phone where you can just add to this as you have the awareness. Because one of my favorite activities is to just make a list of these kind of things and then set aside time. And if you followed me for any period of time, I advocate that you take Fridays off for a lot of reasons that I won't go in here. But on Fridays, at least once a month, I want you to look at that list. And I always like to use this example because it never worked for me. Do you remember the 3D posters that you could look at and people would say, it just looked like a lot of pixels, but people would say, just relax your eyes and then all of a sudden this 3D image is going to pop out at you. Never worked for me. Never has. I have never got any kind of 3D image to pop out. But I know what they're talking about because I can look at a list of issues or challenges and begin to see a pattern with how these 5 seemingly unrelated things are connected to one core problem. And rather than put band-aids on the 5 things, let's solve the core problem once and for all. And so I would encourage you to do the same thing. Make the list, but then just look at it over a cup of coffee on Friday morning and just see if there's patterns there. That pattern recognition is a really important part of what you do as founder and leader of your business. And you will get farther faster by solving the 20% instead of that slapping band-aids on the 80%. So, of course, I've strayed away from my outline here, but the roles that we've talked about here, the firefighter, the culture enforcer, the decision matrix, those roles do not make you a better leader. What they do is they make you more busy, and they exempt your team from taking responsibility. And sometimes we don't realize that we're actually enforcing that or reinforcing that. When you exit those three roles very deliberately, tell them what you're doing. You're doing it with them. You're never doing any of this to them. The result is you free up a lot of your time, a lot of your mental energy, which sometimes is more important than the time. And that gives you the opportunity to multiply your impact and create a business that doesn't thrive, that doesn't survive without you. It actually thrives without you. And that's a kind of company that people want to be a part of. They want to join, they want to buy from, they want to follow, they even want to inherit. Who knows what the future holds for you? But we need to make sure that we've done everything we can up front to make it valuable. This week, and as part of that awareness exercise that I've talked about through the whole thing, I want you to ask yourself, which of these roles am I still holding? But perhaps more importantly, why? Can you ask yourself, can you get real with yourself and identify, have the self-awareness to identify why you're holding on to this, what keeps you there? And then take one micro action. And I do mean micro. It doesn't have to be huge. Just one tiny step to start to shift it, and do it intentionally. If you've worked with me or spent any time with me at all, you know that I put a premium on taking tiny actions, small actions that move the needle, as opposed to just consuming information. Consuming information doesn't change anything more, but it doesn't change anything. So if you're willing, share any kind of insights or even resistance within the group. If you'll just comment on the post, I think that is one of the ways that we can mentor each other and be mentored. And frankly, that's part of what we're here to do. I shouldn't be the only one here making posts. So I encourage you to use these tremendous humans that are already gathered in this group in order to help you solve the challenges that you see on a regular basis, because chances are there's somebody in here that's already been through that and can give you some words of wisdom to help you conquer. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, and I will see you soon.